Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to have some Division 20 online gameplay using Daniel Cormier. He's going to be in the heavyweight division and my opponent is going to be using Stipe Miocic. So I never really play the heavyweight or light heavyweight division, just because when you do play it you just get met with players like using John Jones and Daniel Cormier. They just clinch you constantly, push you to the defence, and it's not fun to play with, to be honest. And the divisions, I don't know what they've done to those divisions, they just feel so stiff. And when I do play it, the only guy I can really use is DC. I feel like they've done a very good job with DC. He reminisces exactly what he was in real life. I mean, he's got amazing boxing, and obviously his wrestling's phenomenal, so you can really control your opponent on the ground using DC, and I like to do that. So I believe the day I'm recording this today, a patch is going to be coming out, or an update, which should change how UFC 4 is played, and I'm hoping they fix the block breaking meta, so players will be forced to actually have to strike technically, and maybe even learn how to grapple. So we start off this fight, and my opponent's Division 20 as well, I believe, and he shoots for a takedown straight away. It's a 5-round fight, so I'm not too bothered about losing the first round. I mean, in the first round here, you really want to feel out your opponent, get a gauge for what they're going to do and how they're going to fight. And I always believe in the first round you shouldn't show your main game plan, like you shouldn't show what you're going to do in the later rounds. And obviously my opponent shot for the takedown straight away, and now I know that moving forward he's going to look for these takedowns and he's going to want to dominate on the ground. So already that's a good sign for me. I know what my opponent's thinking of doing, and he's doing a fairly good job of letting off some little strikes on the ground, but nothing major. He hasn't been able to posture up and deliver any significant strikes as of yet. And as you can see, what I've been doing is I've been denying his transitions, trying to get a read on him. He manages to posture up here and only deals one strike. So the main thing is, when you're on the ground, obviously you're going to want to keep calm, keep throwing little punches so you get GA. And overall, I'm just trying to deny his transitions and show that if he's going to be on top, I want to make it as uncomfortable as possible. And he seems pretty content just sitting in half guard at the moment. He gets to full guard and he breaks them out, and he goes to posture up, and this is where I sway the punch. So this is why I say you've got to look for a pattern. So as he was throwing there, I just assumed he was going to throw the straight. That was my gut feeling. I swayed it, and now I'm back on top. So now on top, I wanted to see what his stand-up's like. I mean, he uses Stipe Miocic, obviously boxer, but big weakness is his chin. And as using DC, the big weakness for me would be the body. It won't take too much. The body damage does add up, so I'm being wary of that. I don't want my opponent to land too many body hooks to the body or any sort of kicks. As you can see, I'm trying to stay in boxing range, and when I'm moving out of the range, it's just to avoid strikes. So I'm using my distance management very well with DC. My opponent goes for another takedown, which I stuff, and just from standing up my opponent for this maybe a couple minutes of this first round, I could see that he wasn't too confident. I mean, he could box. I mean, he's a Division 20 fighter, so obviously he knows how to box to a certain degree. However, it was nothing that was worrying me. Going into round 2, of course, using DC, I like the fight to end up on the ground and me be on top, so I can deliver some elbows, some side control, and just some vicious ground and pound. I mean, DC is one of the only fighters in this game that's a ground game fighter that actually feels decent to use, in my opinion. Going into the second round then, I'm looking to implement my game plan more. I'm going to try hurt him on the feet with my boxing, but I want to get this fight to the ground, and I want to dominate on the ground. I don't want to do what he done on the ground and just lay on top of me and deliver little strikes. I'm looking to hit off big, significant strikes on the ground and do enough damage that I can get my opponent out in the next couple rounds. As you can see right now, it's just a boxing exchange in the middle. Both not really unloading too much. My opponent gets me in the clinch then, hits me with 2 good uppercuts to the body, and like I said, DC's body health isn't the best, probably his biggest weakness, and I'm being cautious that I don't want to take too much damage to my body. My opponent here is trying to pressure me more, but it's nothing too bad at the moment. He shoots for the takedown, he gets it, and he got it against the fence, and whenever you're against the fence it's easier to get up. So I've managed to get up here and shrug off my opponent. He goes for the kick, I get the clinch and push him towards the fence. I mean, whenever you're using Daniel Cormier or John Jones or any good grappler, whenever you're against the fence, I'd recommend circling out and then clinching your opponent and driving them towards the fence, because then you can take their back or shoot for a normal takedown. And here in the middle of the cage, I decide that I want to shoot for a takedown. I get it. And here's where I'm going to start dominating my opponent. I mean, I was on the ground with him for a lot of the first round. I have a rough idea of what he can do and what he can't do on the ground, and I've picked up some patterns. Here I'm looking to deny transitions, build up my GA, and then go for ground and pound. As you can see, I'm being fairly aggressive. When I was in half guard, I postured up and delivered some significant strikes, and then I've gone to full mount, postured up, and also delivered strikes. So I'm looking to do damage here, and I've got my opponent in side control. Whenever I'm here, I always pre-deny that side, because I don't mind any go into his half guard, or if he has the full guard transition, I don't mind that, and I always pre-deny there. Now my opponent right now is in a bad position. He's getting beat up with the elbows, and I'm denying these transitions. And as you can see, this is what you're going to want to do with DC. I mean, DC can box really well. He's actually quite fun to use in the division that I don't enjoy. But this is where obviously you're going to thrive, which is on the ground in these transitions. And he feels amazing on the ground. He just feels like everything he should feel like, because obviously Daniel Cormier in real life, you should just dominate people. I mean, you're talking about a double champ. You're talking about a man that is going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame, and he's in the argument for being a GOAT. I mean, it's just a shame he was born in the era of John Jones. And obviously he's had the 2 losses to Stipe, which I don't think looks the best on his resume. I mean, if I'm being honest, he should have beat Stipe. If he implemented a more wrestling heavy approach, he would have beat Stipe, but it is what it is. That time's gone now. But in the game, Daniel Cormier, I believe, is probably the best fighter to use at heavyweight. Maybe light heavyweight, but John Jones obviously is a big threat. And here we get the takedown again. I mean, we had great success in the second round, controlling my opponent on the ground, and I was looking to replicate that this round. So when we start off the round, I had it in my head that I'm going to look for the takedown, and the opportunity delivered itself, and we get the huge takedown. And here I always wait to see which side my opponent's going to go. He does a good job of getting up, and now on the feet again, but I've done enough damage the last round. I mean, Stipe's chin isn't the greatest, so I know that I'm in a good position to finish the fight. And as you can see, I get the stun off there, and now that I've got the stun, I know that my opponent's probably not going to look to exchange too much. I sway the punch there and go for the takedown, and lucky for my opponent, something happens with the connection, so we're forced to restart. And like I said, I know my opponent's chin isn't in the best position, so I'm looking for one big strike just to get a drop. And my opponent now is throwing the uppercut, and then go to the body. And this is why you don't throw the same combination over and over, because I read it, hit him with the uppercut and got the stun. Shoot for a takedown again, and that's a beautiful takedown. And here I'm looking to dominate again. And I mean, just because of the position I'm in right now in this fight, I know that my opponent's head health isn't in a good position. So I'm unloading from side control with the elbows, looking in to soften his head and potentially get him out of here this round. But if I can't get him out of here this round, what I'm looking to do is do enough damage so that the next round is going to be an easier task. And when you're on the ground and using a grappler, it's important not to always look for the finish. I mean, you can just soften up your opponent so that the next round or the rounds after is going to be considerably easier to finish your opponent. And as you can see, my opponent's head health is starting to take a big toll. A lot of the strikes I'm hitting him with are resulting in big stuns now, which isn't ideal for my opponent. And as you can see, he just unloaded to my body, throwing the same combinations near enough. And in my head, this was a telltale sign that I'm going to be okay. And we get the beautiful knockdown there. I mean, just by the animation, it looked like if I got on top, I would have finished the fight. Which now means that going into this round, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I know that his head health is in a poor position, and he manages to stun me here, which I was surprised with. But as you can see, I blocked the head and then blocked the body because he keeps throwing the same combination, and you need to mix up your combinations. As soon as you start to get predictable, it's going to get a lot easier for your opponent, and once they start reading your striking pattern, it's going to be easier for them to finish it. I shoot for a takedown here, and he does a good job of denying, and he's starting to throw the overhands now. I mean, the first round was probably his, but all the other rounds have been mine, especially with the knockdown last round and all the stuns, so I'm feeling confident. I mean, I did just get stunned, but I'm not too worried about that just because of the damage I've implemented myself. And as you see, I'm doing a good job of being in range when I need to. I'm coming out of range when my opponent's trying to throw strikes, and distance management is a vital thing in any weight class, but it's more prominent in the higher weight classes just because of the power difference. I mean, you're going to look to manage your distance against these heavyweights because it's not going to take too much to put you out. And as you can see here, I managed to get the stun on my opponent. I know my opponent is not in a good shape. I mean, he's not recovering from the strikes I'm throwing to his head, so I'm pretty confident that even if this doesn't go to the ground, that we should be able to get a finish. And I'm looking for my opponent to unload. I'm trying to see if I can slip in a big strike to get a knockdown or the finish. And my opponent goes for the overhand there, hit him twice to the body, get on top to try to finish with some ground and pound, and we managed to finish the fight. As you can see, it was a pretty dominating performance. I mean, we only really lost the first round. Other than that, we dominated all the other rounds. I mean, even the first round, my opponent just had me on the ground for a bit, but didn't do too much with it. Overall, Daniel Cormier is a really good fighter to use, and I don't enjoy heavyweight, but I enjoy using Daniel Cormier. The scorecard's going to come up now, so you guys can see the stats. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.